Todd and Rob in the afternoon.
Hey, afternoon delight.
With Todd and Rob. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, and here we are with the new media show back at our almost regular time.
Yeah,
except Rob, you had a interview to go to, so...
yeah, I had a conflict there that was booked before I made my calendar change. So,
yes. So...
that's all it was.
Yeah, no worries, but back here in the Palatial Studios in southern Michigan... No more OBS. Hopefully no more disconnected cameras.
Well, it always makes for a fun experience, right, Todd?
Yeah, absolutely. And but anyway, I was surprised. Yesterday I got in Monday night. Of course, I was a vegetable. And then Tuesday I just finished work, and I was like, I got to turn the studio on, because if I don't, something will happen. And of course what it was dozens of updates, and so that took all night, but everything was working, so we're ready for the show today. So
so how long were you gone? Was it a couple months?
70 days.
70, okay.
Yeah,
so about 2 months.
Yeah, a little over 2 months. So things weren't too dusty, and that's the main thing. Of course, I had everything covered up with terry cloths, and to protect from whatever dust did migrate in here. But here we are. I'm home for just a few days, and then off to the podcast show.
Wow.
They call themselves a podcast show 2025. They don't call themselves a podcast show London anymore. They're just calling themselves.
That could be a sign of something to come here.
Yeah, so the podcast show 2025, and I've got a few observations. First of all, as an exhibitor, you have an exhibitor portal, and the exhibitor portal for them is just register who's going to be attending. It's just two of us, so I got that. Mackenzie did that, or I don't know, I did it, or somebody did it, and then. Normally, Mackenzie takes care of everything else, but then they launch an app portal, which doesn't copy everything over from the exhibitor portal, and only I could update that. So I was a little bit irritated, because you have to be an attendee to update it. So we finally, after many attempts, got into their system. It's just like every one of these trade shows does a bunch of stuff different. So, anyway, we're set up and ready to leave. And I leave on Monday, get in Tuesday, set up, and then Wednesday, Thursday's the show. Normally we'd get in a day earlier, but to be honest with you, at $400 a night for the hotel room, which is, extraordinary. Of course, it's London. So
is that in U.S. dollars? Or
yes, in U.S. dollars. Okay. So we're gonna come in a day later, do the setup, and then do the show. And I'm gonna stay a couple extra days. I got points. I'm gonna stay in change hotels and do the tourist thing for 2 days. Then come home. If I'd have realized Monday was Memorial Day, I want to come home to Memorial Day. But unfortunately, I'm flying through Jersey, so we'll see if I make it or not. Or not New Jersey. I mean Newark. Flying through Newark,
right?
Yeah,
right.
And so Dave, the other guy, he got rerouted. United took him to Denver, and from Indianapolis to Denver, from Denver to UK. I did not get rerouted, so I guess my flight leaves late enough. They think it's not going to be an issue, but yeah. So anyway, some observations going into the portal. There was, I guess the best way to describe it, there is what's the best way to say it? There's profiles. So I'm reading through, 50 pages of profiles of people that have signed up for the app. Mm-hmm. And the number of people that are producers, and I mean, it was producer. I manage a network, but very few in the app so far that were actual podcasters. So this concerns me. I am sure there will be a fair share of people there, but if this turns into podcast movement where there are only industry people at the event, it was just page after page after page of industry people. So to me, that, and maybe industry people are more aligned with, putting their profile up. But it did surprise me just a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a trend that we've seen prior, that, these events have turned into, it's events for business deals, and meetings, and content representatives meeting with each other,
Right.
not content creators meeting
That's
with
right.
people. Right.
But it was page after page of it, coming from Australia, France, Germany, Ireland. And again, it was heads of networks and this and this and this and this. Cause I'm kind of going through trying to figure out who I can message to say, hey, come on over and have a conversation. And I think I sent on 20 pages of looking at profiles, I think I sent 11 messages. So that doesn't bode well
Right.
from attendee state. Now, last year, there was a fair number of attendees that were podcasters that were walk-ins, so maybe they weren't worried about the app. So I guess I'll find out next week, and then we'll make a determination. We're even talking about whether or not we attend Podcast Movement at all next year. We're talking about,
even in Dallas.
Yeah, as an exhibitor. So, we're committed this year. But if it turns out it's just an industry event again, I won't renew my booth. I will just go and as an individual and, do business in the hallways. So,
I think it's an interesting thought, Todd, of what's happening to these events. And these events are not catering to the needs of content creators.
Not at all.
So
Podfest is, but Podcast Movement definitely is, from the last two shows.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I think that may be an opportunity that's exposing itself too, that there's a window of opportunity here for shows to be more creator focused.
Yeah. And of those people that were listed, at least so far that I've looked at, very few from America are going to London, as one would expect.
Yeah. Just a month ago or so, a couple months ago, there was a lot of fear mongering going on about if you traveled outside of the U.S., wouldn't let you back into the country again.
Whatever. It's just that's BS.
But that was a lot of the feedback that I heard, even from people that live in Canada. It's like, I'm not going to the U.S. because I don't know if I'm going to make it across the border.
Oh my God, unbelievable!
Yeah, I know.
I cleared immigration and customs coming through San Francisco in less than 2 minutes. So, I waited for my bag for an hour, but
it's all fear mongering for political reasons.
It's just ridiculous. And UK now has you have to fill out the same type of paperwork people have to fill out coming here. It's basically gives you a 2-year window to be approved to come in, and it's an entry approval or something like that, which I don't mind. Every country I go to almost has one of those. Where you staying, that type of information.
Todd, isn't there? I mean, back when I went to the podcast show, before I could leave London at the airport, I had to get a COVID test.
Oh, that was during the insanity.
That was back in 2022. So yeah. So it was So there's always some hurdle that you have to go through that makes traveling a nightmare.
So it's not really not a nightmare. 15 minutes. The application was
Well,
buggy. I had to do it on a phone. You couldn't do it on the computer, and
Well-
it just took the app longer. Of course, I just reapplied for my concealed carry yesterday, and the website here in Michigan, it took me 30 minutes just waiting for 4 screens to update. So, and they're not. It isn't just anywhere else. It's immune to these tech issues. So,
right. Well,
Yeah.
if it's anything to do with government or anything like
Yeah.
that, it's going to be a mess.
Yeah. So, but anyway, and a couple of people, oh, aren't you worried about going to London? I'm like, why?
Yeah. Well, it's
You know,
from the reason I just said. It's like
You
people
know,
have
it's-
been given all these fear-based reasons
Yeah.
why they shouldn't do it.
it's it's fantastic. Yeah, and I'm gonna go eat pub grub, and I'm gonna have some pints, and I'm gonna eat Indian food, and I've been recommended an Italian place and a French restaurant, so I'm gonna probably make reservations to those 2 places. Eat in the evening. Fancy places require quote unquote reservation. Of course, I'll be that dude, that solo dude that walks in and come in and takes up a whole table. But
Right. Todd, there's a terrific burger joint right across the street from the
I know
driveway up to the
yeah
exhibition.
yeah I've been in there.
Oh, you have? Okay.
Yeah. But I don't go to London to eat burgers. I go to London to eat as much local cuisine, of course, Indian food. But I can't get Indian food here. So
Really? You
No.
can't get Indian food there?
it's not if I have to drive an hour.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, there's
In Michigan.
yeah where I live here. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Well, that makes more sense.
So I guess I'll go to London to have Indian food.
Yeah.
But it is concerning, and so I guess we'll see. We'll see what the turnout is. I might come back and have a completely different report. I know
hope
the
it's a
chat.
more positive one, because it'd be nice to actually get a good positive report from one of these conferences that interest is high and there's a lot of energy at it. and
Yeah,
stuff.
there was a lot of energy last year. That's why we doubled down. So I'm hopeful that it's carrying over. At the same time, we're just all the stuff is arriving here. I'm suitcasing all the materials. God forbid my suitcase gets lost, because we'll really be screwed. But the booth is already set up. We just show up and throw our paperwork out.
Okay, so you did what you guys didn't ship your stuff there.
Oh no, we don't do that. you know how much shipping is to London?
I know. That's why I asked the question.
Yeah, no. It's going in my suitcase. And if it fits in my carry-on, I'll put it in the carry-on above, but I don't think it will.
Right. Yeah. So, but anyway, I kind of teased the beginning of this episode about this concept that maybe podcasting may be bigger than all of us have been talking about.
Oh,
for a
really?
while. Yeah. If you look at the share that I sent you
Yeah.
with the chart there that was put together by, of all people, Hernan Lopez. His company, the founder of Wondery and one of the founders of the Podcast Academy that I work with.
He's back in business?
Oh, yeah.
Where's he working at?
He's got a company. Well, he's got his own companies,
Oh.
so he's not working for other people anymore. Owl and Company. I guess he did some research on this and came up with a global podcast economy number of 7.3 billion. So, and that breaks up and consolidates all at the same time here a number that's based on direct ad revenue, programmatic ad revenue, branded work for hire, so more from a production standpoint, revenue, and consumer revenue.
So what does it mean? Consumer giving money to podcasters?
I guess, whatever those sources were that provided revenue. It's not specified exactly what he meant by consumer revenue, but I'm assuming that it had something to do with direct payments, maybe premium-based offerings, things like that. So that 7 billion gets broken up. So the biggest piece of it is direct ad revenue at about 4.6 billion.
Yeah, that
And
is isolated at the top of 5% of podcast.
Yeah. And the programmatic side is currently at 1.6 billion.
Interesting number.
And the branded work for hire kind of, studio consulting, podcasting experts kind of side of the market is 1.3 billion. And
that was consumer revenue, 1.3 billion.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, exactly. So 0.3 is the branded work for hire.
I don't believe this at all.
Okay.
No
Why
way.
not? Why not?
No way. I just don't think it's a real number. You're telling me that consumers are contributing $1.3 billion a year to podcasters. Let's just think about that for a second. And if you want, Rob, get your calculator out. And let's.
We don't have the best of reputations for breaking out the calculator.
Okay, so here's a calculator, and someone's gonna have to back me up here. 1300 000 000. Okay, that's 1.3 billion divided by 400,000 active shows.
I think he's
equal.
tried to roll up the whole industry, and that even includes video. So that's my understanding of what he was trying to do here.
So that means that if we just talk about active podcasts, that would be $3,250 that each podcaster on average was making. If we just do an average. Now, let's change this again. Let's say,
Todd, before you poo-poo it too much, keep into account that it says in the report that I read that this is also including video.
I know.
And Patreon revenue also, as well as other kind of paid premium.
So what did Patreon announce recently that it had paid out? There was a number they had given. Do we remember what that number is?
I don't remember off the top.
So if I take 1.3 billion, and we know that 90% of shows are not getting money from their audience. So let's just say 40,000 shows in podcasting are getting money from their audience.
Mm-hmm.
So how many more shows in YouTube? 10,000?
I don't know. I don't have a number on that to be able to dispute anything here.
Well, there's probably 10,000. I'm guessing. Maybe I can't imagine there's more than 10,000 podcasters on YouTube earning money from an audience.
Is that how you define what a podcast is, Todd? I mean,
well, that's what he's saying. Podcast. So we're going to talk in YouTube, so we'll throw another 10,000 people in there.
Okay.
So let's divide that by 50,000.
Okay.
That means that each one of them are making $26,000 a year from their audience. The top show in podcasting that earns money from their audience is definitely Adam Curry and John C. DeVore. They by far earn the most money, or at least the most transparent about it.
You're talking about revenue that's direct from their audience.
Right. Donations. Let's do this. Let's look at here. What is podcast revenue from Patreon? They gave out a number.
Todd, this is the first time that anyone's tried to attempt this, because I think we have been talking about, if you look at, if you're going to point out any of these numbers as kind of subjective, is this number of 4.6 billion around podcasts are mainly ad supported.
Wow, that's another crazy number. So,
well, okay, but if you include video in there, that means that the revenue coming out of what is seen as a podcast on YouTube or Spotify or all those,
well, we shouldn't
added to the number plus.
But we shouldn't include
Todd,
that.
But Todd, this is globally too. Most of the numbers that we see here in the U.S. are U.S. only numbers, right? So the numbers that we see from the IAB as far as current ad market,
Yeah.
it's always U.S. only. This is trying to do a global spin.
I'd like to see how he came up with these numbers. Just show the data. Now, Patreon did give 472 million.
Right.
But this is to date, I think.
I don't know.
Yeah.
About that.
472 million to date, not this year.
Okay, this is based on 2024 revenue.
So 2023 was 350 million. So maybe it was for a year, 470 million for a year. So maybe 2024 for Patreon. But then again, how are they defining podcasts? Is that YouTube? Is that,
That's, it doesn't specify in the information I can see here.
Then there should be some very rich podcasters. Very rich. If it's these kinds of numbers. If we think about audio, then the majority of that money is going to video, folks. Because there is not that many audio podcasters that are making, I'd like to hear somebody's numbers if they're willing to lay it out on how much they're earning from their audience. I would like to hear some of the top shows says I've earned $1 million from my audience. I would love to hear someone disclaim that. That would be a great boost. That'd be great news.
Good project for the IAB to undertake is to try and roll these numbers up, just like what's being attempted here.
Yeah.
Maybe these numbers are off by 25%. Who knows?
The large figure
count. This is the first time that anybody's tried to do this.
Yeah. It maybe globally, but again, that 4.6 billion on where the majority of podcast ad revenue is in the United States. That means the rest of the world is doing only $2.3 billion.
Yeah.
I would be shocked if it was that much.
I mean, across the rest of the world, you mean?
Yeah. Who are these people that are getting $7 billion?
Okay, Todd, I think one of the challenges of this conversation is we're bouncing back and forth between talking about audio only.
Oh, I know.
And being fair and looking at this from a broader.
But the thing is, it depends on how broad a brush you want to paint. If it's got a microphone in the background, are they calling it a podcast? That's the problem here. Well,
Todd, I can't remember if I mentioned this on the last episode, but I just did in the interview that I just did. But was that I'm increasingly seeing many of the podcasts that I saw, and maybe I did mention this in last time we did this, but many of the shows that I would see as a audio and video podcast have removed the microphones from their videos. So like instead of my microphone being visible,
can't hear you.
I know, just pull it out of the screen.
Yeah,
or it's a it's a microphone that's over their head.
Well, I can't hear you, so pull your microphone back up.
Todd, are you trying to make a statement here, or are you?
No, if they have good audio. So let me give you a little fun thing here. There's a new website out. It's called whatsapodcast.com.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I hadn't seen this.
Yeah. What's a podcast at whatsapodcast.com? A podcast is a noun. Episodic multimedia content that's downloadable via RSS, real simple syndication. A podcast can be audio or video.
Okay. I would say that kind of scrambles the issue a little bit.
No, don't. It's just a little jab there.
Just a little bit of a jab.
A little bird shared that with me. So
talk about
I got some comments
continuing to monkey up the waters.
There's a Beauty Bubble says one number published was the estimated monthly payouts for this category add up to nearly 3.5 million. Which category is that? I'm looking at that.
Or 3.5 billion or
No,
million?
3.5 million. Here is more from the paragraph. While the podcast genre might not attract nearly as many patrons, the top Patreon creators runs a podcast more. As of July 24, there were over 17,000 podcasters with at least one patron on Patreon. The estimated payouts for this category add up to 3.5 million. And hope that adds some color to the conversation. Earnings now include private donations, PayPal, Venmo, even the odd cryptocurrency donation might be added. And Glitch says Todd's going to be Todd. Yes, he is. So,
Well, this gets back to a much bigger issue in the medium right now that really applies to everything, is from monetization to metrics to everything, is that we've decided, or the market has decided, that we're going to just scramble everything up. It's almost like we have like a dozen eggs and we chose to just crack them all and put them in one bowl.
It's the YouTube thing. They're BS.
Well, okay. I mean, but the audience is voting with their eyes and with their ears, right? So regardless of what YouTube has done or anything, that is what that's what we're up against, right? And Spotify's recent change in
which has got podcasters leaving.
Right. Well, I was going to talk about that a little bit, but changing from start to play, which is kind of what they've done. Right?
Yeah.
And then publicly displaying the play part, which is not based on any kind of IAB metric standard or whatever. So we're going to create this fragmentation of metrics again, Todd, which I know is going to drive you crazy. So it's like, the numbers that are visible are going to be higher than the numbers that are reported to advertisers, and that's going to
I think people need to use caution here and being very careful on this video narrative. Be careful what you wish for.
Well, because it's not just video.
But be careful what you wish for, because podcasting could come unglued and hosting companies could go out of business. And all you're left, this is serious, all you're going to be left with is YouTube and Spotify.
That's why the industry needs to...
The industry can't do nothing, because industry's sabotaging itself by talking about this ongoing video narrative that, my God, you got to have a video. Now, let me show you something. I started a new show called Podcast Myth. In my recent episode, Spotify and YouTube versus RSS and podcasting. You should go listen to it. You might be entertained. I'm just saying that the whole podcast establishment has bought into video. And they are...
Video's always been part of podcasting.
I understand, but they're buying into the YouTube narrative of podcasting. They don't give two shits about RSS and video. I was asked again recently, do you guys support video? I said, yes, we've supported video for 18 years. Mm-hmm. Then what apps support video? Okay, here's the link to the list. You were asked this too in a group recently. And you gave them a list.
Page that was put up by Rob Walsh.
Yeah. So you put up information, but I don't see a rush of podcasters wanting to have a video podcast via RSS.
Well, that's because Apple hasn't woken up to what's going on here.
So Grok, we're not going to count Grok anyway. Grok, Beauty Bubble says, and of course, I think ChatGPT says the same thing. A podcast is a digital audio video series, typically episodic, that you can download or stream online. Download, yes. Download via RSS.
But it did throw that word stream in, didn't it?
Yeah, they did.
Which plays into the podcasting 2.0 narrative too, Todd. So, I mean, all these things are coming together to just drive everybody absolutely crazy.
Well, I'm not.
Let's just admit it, Todd. We're in the kind of crazy time in the medium.
Ask me how many times
losing their minds.
Ask me how many times last month have I been on a call with a podcaster asked me, do I need to do video? Zero.
Doesn't mean it's not happening.
Ask me how many times this month we've had people sign up for VidPod to bring their video back to podcasting, and that's a big number.
Okay, that's a little bit of a clue of what's going on here, Todd.
Well, again, these are people that never had a podcast. These people have been on YouTube.
Well, I would say that's a good trend.
Yeah.
There's no question about that. But I think this whole kind of trying to turn our back on video is actually turning back on the audience.
Well, it's not. I think we have to understand that it's all fucking propaganda.
No, it's not.
No,
It's propaganda. No.
Okay.
No,
the narrative is starting to change from what I'm hearing from content creators. I'm just telling you.
Your platform is thought of as a audio first platform.
Yeah, of course.
So of course, those are going to be the conversations that you hear.
No, I have people talking to me all the time about what's going on in the space, customers, and we're doing customer calls on a weekly basis. We're having great conversations. And the majority of people don't have the money or the time.
Yeah, well, okay. I'm not saying that everybody has to do anything. I'm just saying that you're not speaking to the people. There's a whole nother community.
Oh, good.
Do
YouTube. Go. And Salabi.
And Todd, you're tapping into the benefit of that there's this whole other community that's thinking a little bit more about video that could take what they're doing in video and work with your platform to get it into audio.
That's fine. But again, I think
that's the way you should be
I think we need to quit giving all this credit. That's all I'm saying. You get
credit to who?
All this political narrative about you got to have a video podcast.
It's a political narrative? No.
It is a commercial narrative.
I don't really see it entirely that way because I see it as the audience is speaking.
The audience hasn't left audio. Those numbers are not going. Huh?
What the research is showing us, Todd, is that they want both.
Well,
increasingly,
again,
the audience wants the option of having audio or video.
Again, for top tier shows, that's it.
Well, okay.
Who else is being successful on? Go through, Rob, and make a list. I challenge you to spend 2 or 3 hours and make a list try to find the top 250 YouTube quote unquote. Go right to the podcast section and make a list of the top shows. See how deep you get into YouTube of stuff that is classified a podcast by YouTube. If you get more than 250, I would be shocked. But they're the ones.
250?
Yeah, go to the podcast section on YouTube. There's not 200. They don't highlight 250 shows.
I don't understand what you're talking about.
Okay,
now.
so
they don't highlight. I don't know what that means.
Okay, podcast. So let me tell you what I'm talking about here. On YouTube, this guy, he's never had a audio podcast, LMG Clips. Never. He's always been a YouTuber. Always. From the very beginning. Many, many years. Just go through this whole list. And
but Todd, if a viewer of that or a listener of that looks at it, they're going to immediately think it's a podcast.
Well, that's why it's listed as a podcast. But he does other stuff besides standing in front of a mic. But again, go through this stack. Casey Neistat, has he been a podcaster? No.
So?
He's a hardcore YouTuber, but they have him listed in the podcast section.
Okay.
So again, go through and look.
Also, by labeling your show on YouTube as a podcast, it adds you to a different feature area in the platform.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24. They only highlight 24 shows in the podcast section. There's more, but these are the only thing that they say is a podcast. Yeah, they get huge views. Well, not really. This one's 124. Here's 219K, 13K views.
Okay, I wouldn't use this page as a gauge on how many podcasts are in YouTube.
Well, then YouTube's they're obviously, then they're not promoting any. Why aren't they promoting all these podcasts if they're doing so well?
Well, because what YouTube does is algorithmic. So you have logged in, right?
Yeah.
So this is your account. So
Yep.
it's finding content in here that's relevant that the algorithm, the AI algorithm thinks is likely to be more relevant to you.
No, 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 no. There's Leo Laporte. Haven't listened to his shows in more than 10 years. No, no, no.
I'm not saying it's accurate, Todd. I'm just saying that that's what it's doing here. It's an algorithmically curated page. That's that's mostly what YouTube does.
Beauty Bubble says, do hashtag podcast on YouTube. So you do hashtag podcast. 13 million videos has a hashtag podcast.
See, this is another big area of difference between what YouTube is doing and what Apple does. But increasingly, Spotify is shifting to be more like YouTube is algorithmically curating what their account holders see. And that, good or bad, you're not going to see everything on any page on YouTube just because they're trying to personalize, they're trying to make it.
Mr. Beast showed up as a podcast. Hilarious.
Okay.
Wife goes to podcast and find husband there with another woman. That is an absolute, that's clickbait.
So what is a podcast is a question that was asked by the Oxford Road team as part of the Media Roundtable.
Yeah.
And they talked to many people in the industry. I'm going to invite Dan to come on the show again to talk about this, because what they have found is that the media industry is increasingly seeing podcasting is being included with video.
Well, I have no doubt.
And it's because that's what the brands want. The brands are buying against content now. They're not buying against podcasts, buying against TV shows, buying against radio. They're increasingly seeing everything converge into digital, right? So this is part of a bigger trend that we're seeing in media today, is that it's a consolidation. That's why I said that we basically cracked a dozen eggs all into one bowl, and we're blending them together.
So everything it looks to me like everything on YouTube is a podcast now. So
okay, so what? I mean, I thought that you always said that it doesn't matter how they listen or where they listen, as long as they listen.
I know, but it's making this narrative, and I'm looking at many of these shows that are showing up. They have beautiful, very expensive studios, you know, but they also have millions of views.
Okay.
And they don't highlight anyone that doesn't have any views. Yeah, the only people they highlight are people that have a large number of views.
That is generally the case, yes.
Yeah.
I would agree with you.
So the average podcaster that is in the 90 percentile.
But that's what Apple does.
You have a bigger chance of breaking out in Apple if you.
That's what Spotify does.
Yeah. Well, again,
all these big media companies are not going to put on their front page shows that have 5 listeners.
And there is
not going to do it.
And there is my point.
I agree.
There is my point.
Well, because Todd, unfortunately,
there's my point.
We've moved into a new era.
Well, then guess what? Then every 90% of the what you're doing right now, Rob, is you're telling 90% of the audio podcasters they should quit.
I didn't say that.
Yeah, that's kind of what you're saying. We moved into a new era. Only big shows are going to be able to be seen. Well, that's not true.
Yeah, but Todd, it was always a myth.
What was a myth?
True. That that big shows weren't being highlighted. That's all. That's been going on since the beginning of podcasting.
But the thing is, what you've done is the narrative of podcasting on video is being so much put out there that small shows that have 100 listeners think they have to do video now.
I don't think that really anything has really significantally changed, Todd.
I'm just saying,
platforms like Apple and Spotify and all the other ones feature big shows,
but
that they
the
get
pressure,
people clicking on.
the pressure that's being put by the establishment on these smaller shows is you have to have video, and I'm like, no, you don't.
Who's the establishment?
You have been talking about you have to do video for the past 6 months.
No, I haven't.
It sure sounds like it.
You're hearing what you want to hear, Todd. You're not hearing what I'm actually saying.
Okay, tell me what you're saying.
Well, I'll say it again.
Okay.
I think the audience has heard me say it like 10 times, but obviously you haven't heard it, which is I don't care whether or not a person does just audio or just video, or both. This is why the media landscape is so challenging right now.
But are we serving video podcasters or are we serving audio podcasters?
Both.
I'll say it again. What's a podcast?
Well, I'm sorry, Todd, but this page doesn't reflect the current market that we live in today. And
I know.
It's living in the past is what it is. It's not living in the present. And in the present, there's very powerful creators out there now, Todd, that think of themselves as video and audio creators, not audio and video creators.
I agree.
So, you have to keep that in mind that there's a whole nother community.
But at the same time, the pressure.
So what say that you're not important.
So what it does say, what it says is smaller. It says smaller creators, you're not important, because the focus is on big creators.
Yeah, but that's always been the case, Todd.
I don't believe it.
Yeah, it's always been the case. It's just now it's more the case.
Yeah.
So that's what's changed.
So then guess what? Then then what you're going to see is you're going to see the audio podcasting space disappear.
No, we're not going to see
I think it could.
No.
I absolutely think
Todd,
it could.
Todd, I have to really object to this because you're fear-mongering.
I'm not fear-mongering.
Yes, you are.
I see what's going on with the number of audio shows being created. I see it. Go look at the stats.
Todd, the market adjusts to what the market wants. That's always been the case in podcasting.
It's true.
Right? If the market wants audio, it'll get audio.
Yeah.
If the market wants video, it should get video, right? If the market wants audio and video, what should the market get?
It gets whatever it wants.
Audio and video.
Yep. I'm just saying there is an extreme risk. I'm telling you. 2 to 3 years. 2 to 3 years, if this narrative that video is fucking everything, which is what is being said today.
I don't think that's going to last.
People could look at all the sessions, video. No one cares about audio.
Well, it's the hot shiny thing right now.
Yeah, it's a hot shiny thing. So when Todd
doesn't mean that audio is going to disappear.
So let's hope.
Don't fearmonger on that because I don't think that's accurate.
Let's hope that that YouTube creators will start going to podcast movement. Otherwise,
Why?
That event is not going to survive.
Does one conference have to survive?
If the conferences go away, it's a telltale sign of what's happening in the space.
No. If the conferences are struggling, they're struggling because they're doing something that's not catering to the market that exists today.
Well, there's definitely an issue in the space. I'm just telling you.
I mean, we'll have to see what happens at the podcast show. If it's the same pattern that we've been seeing happen at
We'll
Movement.
see.
If it is the same pattern, which there's pretty high likelihood that it will be, in my view, that this is indicative of the industry has moved away from being a creator medium and has moved towards being very singularly focused on the business side of podcasting.
Yep.
And that is a clue to where the issue
and that is a and that will cause a disenfranchisement. I can't even say it.
With just the conferences. It's
Right.
not going to create a disenfranchisement of the content creators because they're doing their thing.
Look what's in the newsletters. Look at what's being announced. I'm telling you, James Cridlin agrees with me on this to a point. That the established podcast business could be very much in danger.
Yeah, well, I think if I agree with you from the perspective if we let RSS get disrupted.
Well, it's in the conversation.
If we risk of that.
Oh, there is. If you keep pushing this narrative that YouTube is God's gift to everything.
Yeah, but it's not about video. That's not what will harm RSS. I don't believe. What's going to harm RSS is us losing focus on innovating on RSS and making it more relevant to listeners and make it more relevant to the creator to care about it. And I don't know. I mean, I think that the RSS issue has left the consciousness of the listening side of podcasting.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Many years ago.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I don't think that we should be surprised that all the trend lines push towards a kind of a pullback from RSS.
Well, it hasn't helped that major players, Marco, Apple,
right,
and others that are actually RSS first ecosystems,
yeah,
are failing to innovate and surface stuff faster.
Yeah, I think that's the real issue, is that it's not as relevant as it needs to
But
be.
at the same time, I would give everyone a little homework. And it'll tell everyone a lot about where my brain's at, because I spent a lot of time thinking about this. I play devil's advocate here quite a bit.
Oh, I know.
So arguing with
I do
Rob
too.
just a little bit. Okay. So just so you guys know, Todd's not as ignorant as sometimes as he's sounding on the show. All right.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay. So just
That's a tightrope to walk.
yeah, it is.
Walk on, Todd.
Yeah.
Right.
But anyway, go listen to episodes 215, 216, and 217 of Podcasting 2.0. Listen to them consecutively. If you are in the podcasting space, if you are a RSS podcaster, if you're a YouTuber,
audio
if you're an audio podcaster, go listen to 215, 216, 217 of Podcasting 2.0. Go listen to it. You're going to have to listen to about 5 hours of content. You're going to hear some very influential people in those episodes. You're going to hear Tom Webster. You're going to hear a couple of other parties out there. And I agree. And really what it boils down to is that the apps, the modern day apps, the download apps, have failed us.
Yeah.
Apple
is failing us too.
The download apps have failed us and not kept up. That's just simple fact.
Yeah.
And what is going to be required for those that are audio focused in order to maintain and be able to grow and thrive is that you're going to, in our newsletter that went out today, I asked if you had a niche, if you're in a niche category, whatever it is, postage stamps, basket weaving, whatever niche you are in, if you have a niche podcast, I want to hear from you, because collectively there's probably a dozen other niche shows. And what we have to do is we have to become smarter as audio creators to be able to build community around those niche topics and around categories. Going back to the early day of podcasting, where a network of 13 shows or something like that has a place to showcase and be able to thrive. But go listen to episode 215, 216, 217 from Podcasting 2.0. And I think what you're going to find out and you're going to realize is that the experience, and part of the reason why we've had challenges in podcasting 2.0 is we're trying to do all these cool things.
Yeah.
And we've become the chicken before the egg, or however that works, egg before the chicken, or, you guys, someone said
cart before the horse.
Yeah, whatever it may be. And what we've learned is that, that as always, the apps are the ones that are not being the ones that follow through. And we just have a bad experience. It was a miracle. And I think it was probably something already that Apple had planned. It was probably just luck that we got the transcript tag adopt over there.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they did it. Oh, I froze.
That's pretty low hanging fruit, isn't it, Todd?
What's going on here? I'm freezing. That's
Sorry, I see you back. Oh yeah.
That's not a good sign. It's choppy. That's odd. Okay.
Just a blip in your
Yeah, glitch in the matrix here. The system. That's odd. Okay.
Just a blip in your
Yeah, glitch in the matrix here. The system hasn't been on in 70 days. But we're going to have to make some new experiences, and who's going to have to do it is us. The podcast hosts are going to have to do it, because the apps aren't going to do it for sure.
Well, Todd, I think the bigger question too, in addition to that, is around metrics.
Yeah.
What do we do as an industry as a reaction to what Spotify has done?
Well, Spotify's already reverted a little bit from their. Let me get this somewhere where I guess the mic's going to be in the way the whole time. Some podcasters have already, said we're leaving, we're going to pull out, and they kind of reverted after they announced what they were going to do.
Yeah, I saw that the Sips and Suds and Smokes podcast has announced it's going to come off of Spotify based on its decision to make non-IAB metrics publicly available, which plays right into what we're talking about here. Is the Spotify has decided to scramble the playing field around metrics and show different numbers publicly than they have been historically needing to use to report to advertisers.
Yeah.
And that's creating a conflict in the market. Who's right? It's not unlike what the early years of podcasting was, Todd, as you recall, where every platform had a different way of counting.
Oh yeah.
And
I'm glad I don't have to. I don't have to deal with it. So the advertisers do. I don't have to deal with it.
Yeah, but what's the fallout from this? I mean, the
fallout is the creator gets screwed. That's the fallout. I also think
it's a game for Spotify to look like they're more popular than they really are. Because
no, the podcasters that pulled out said they were being underreported. That was the problem.
Well, my understanding is that if you switch out the naming of a start count
with the
play, that means that there is no disqualifying click. So, because currently in the podcast counting metrics, you have to play at least a minute of content for it to be counted.
And in my opinion, that 60 seconds has always been too low anyway, but that's a whole nother hour of discussions here.
Right. But in what Spotify is doing publicly is that just clicking the button counts.
Yeah. Why not?
And we have to be fair and say
YouTube
we don't
too.
really know what YouTube is doing with this, right?
Yeah.
YouTube has views, which may be equivalent to what Spotify is doing.
Yeah, why not?
Play, and that gets counted as a view. Though I have seen in the back end that it evaluates the viewers, and I think it does have a little bit of engagement algorithm that plays against it, because sometimes the numbers are different on the website publicly than what shows up in the back end analytics. And oftentimes what it shows publicly is less than what it shows in the back end. And then eventually the front end catches up.
Right.
Which makes me think that maybe there is some sort of a filtering going on to, align those. So I'm not quite sure, what that looks like, but so there is some games that are being played publicly with the numbers. And that's where we get back to it again, is that the IAB, if you look at the IAB and its current structure around its metrics standards, it has a different metrics for digital audio or streaming than it has for television, than it has for podcasts or for radio or streaming radio, right? So I think what we need to do is, as an industry, to better cater to the advertisers, is just kind of bring them together and make them more aligned with each other. But that may or may not change things with Spotify. But if Spotify wants to be a member of the IAB, they probably need to, align with whatever choice the industry makes. But oftentimes people will use metrics as a competitive weapon in the market. And I believe to some degree that's what Spotify is doing right now. So if they can show higher numbers publicly around shows, then that is almost like a social vote, right?
Right.
A social confidence vote in a particular content creator, that if this content creator is getting 1 million plays on Spotify, then Spotify is a big platform for that show.
Yeah.
Right? And it maybe is bigger than what their podcast numbers show.
Well, we definitely had a major network glitch here. But things are
back.
Yeah, I'm glad we're back. We're still live on YouTube. We dropped on Facebook. I think I know what happened. I think Starlink went sideways for a second.
Oh, maybe you get caught in a transfer between satellites or something.
Yeah, that's never happened, but it might have been local here because I disconnected from my Wi-Fi. So I wonder, probably all my routers need to be rebooted. Nothing's been touched. Yeah, because now everything's back the way it should be here. Very, very odd. I guess at this point, the video narrative is just going to run itself out. If it does,
No, I don't think it's going to run itself out, Todd. I think this is a big.
But we have to, as the new media show, we need to make sure that the audio podcasters know there's a home for them. There's still an audience for them. Because I
don't know why that's in question, Todd. Who's questioning that there isn't
that is the perception. You think about it. Think if you were brand new as a brand new.
You're underestimating the intelligence of the content
I
creators.
think if you are a brand new creator, and again, remember, we deal with the creators every day of the week. And if you're brand new and you're hearing this narrative about video and you don't want to do video and you think you have to do video because that's what everybody says, you have to have a successful podcast, and you go over on YouTube, well, you're just going to get lost over there and discouraged and quit. And again, I think that we have to do the best job we can to protect the narrative about audio and people being here and still listening. That's all.
Todd, I think the only real issue here is that if people don't consider doing an audio show or an audio podcast as a viable path forward. I think that's the only risk. And what would cause that to happen?
I think it already is happening.
No, well, Todd, I think people have always seen, I'm going to create a podcast or I'm going to create a YouTube show, right? That distinction has always existed.
I don't know if it does anymore.
Well, I think most intelligent people would realize that I have a choice. I can make audio or I can make a video, right? Can I successfully make audio and video at the same time?
Rob, if all you're doing is Googling for information, you are going to think that you have to do video. And audio is not even an alternative. It's been regulated to a second-class citizen again.
Okay, but that's not in conflict with being an RSS-based audio podcaster, in my view, because those are clearly two paths to head down.
But again,
because Apple will actually, if Apple comes out and builds into their platform the ability to toggle back and forth between audio and video,
it could change the narrative overnight.
Right, will completely change the narrative. And if you really want to be concerned about the confusion in the market, that's when it will happen. is because then you start going back to what podcasting was back in 2008, 2009, and 2010, which was both audio and video together.
We will see if they do.
And if Apple makes that choice, is the audio podcast industry prepared for the impact?
Absolutely.
Only 3 companies that I know are.
Well,
prepared.
good. If we're still here.
Yeah.
Oh, it's times.
I think it's fine to keep pushing the emphasis on audio and the power of audio.
Yeah, we have to.
I think that's the right choice. But I think it's also ignorant for us to think that video isn't playing a role here, because it is.
Oh, I have no doubt video is playing a role. But what we have to be cognizant of is new podcasters. People listen to this show. They're like, holy shit, Todd, But it's what
people are probably yelling at the speakers.
That's good. That's fine. It's yell at the speakers. But here's the thing. If we want the podcasting space to survive as we know it.
Well, maybe it shouldn't survive as the way we know it.
Well, then guess what? Then you goodbye and have everyone on YouTube.
Yeah, but Todd, things don't work like that. It's going to evolve. It's always evolved, right?
It's always evolved.
Shifted.
But the challenge is the apps have not served the communities well.
Let's point to the real issue here, and the real issue is that we haven't evolved.
We have Spotify as a great,
and
as much
and
as
the
I don't,
audience has gotten ahead of us.
As much as I don't like Spotify, people love the app.
Right.
As much as, and of course, YouTube really doesn't have a great mobile app, in my opinion. That's why everyone's watching on a TV now. The majority of people are watching on TV.
No. The vast majority of consumption on YouTube is on mobile, Todd.
Oh, you need to go back and listen to their last earnings report. That's not the case.
Yeah, it is.
TV consumption it's
gone up, but it hasn't replaced mobile.
What is the delta?
Currently, the ranking in consumption, and I see it even in my own stats, it goes mobile, desktop, and TVs. That's the distribution in the ranking.
They made a statement. I thought they said that maybe it had.
Well, they did that. The TV stuff was way up.
YouTube's total of U.S. viewership is more concentrated on TV sets than on mobile devices. That's the statement they made.
Where does it say that, Todd?
That was on a recent earnings report.
For podcasts?
No, for all of YouTube consumption, marking a shift in viewing habits. This means that while mobile devices remain a significant platform for YouTube, the platform has seen a larger portion of viewership shifting to connected televisions. Yeah, this was announced in an earnings call.
Just percentage.
Yeah, so that was announced several months ago, that TVs are leading now mobile in YouTube consumption because of connected TVs. YouTube CEO Neil Mohan announces the platform has more viewers on TVs than mobile devices in the U.S. No longer mobile first.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, that happened earlier this year. So Yeah, February 11th was when the news came out on this. So I'm a victim of it. So, because again, everyone's got a connected TV now. Everyone's cut the cord. No one's listening. No one's getting Fox News, ABC, CBS, NBC, ESPN as on their cable networks. People cut the cord. So what are they doing? They're on these connected TVs. So of course, consumption is going to be massive because of the massive amount of content available on the platform. Thus, people are getting back in their cars more now because they're having to do a transit. So audio listening is back up in that regard.
Okay, Todd. Okay, there's a distinction in the numbers here that I just found in Gemini, and the distinction is that you are correct that in the U.S. TVs have become the primary device
in
for
US.
YouTube.
Yeah,
but mobile devices still hold the largest share of YouTube viewership on a global scale.
That makes sense.
Right.
Yeah, because just the country I just came from, hardly anyone has TVs. They all have mobile devices.
Yeah. So I think, essentially both of us were right on that.
Yeah. Okay.
But it depends on the scale, right?
Yeah, and I think then what we have to do and what podcasters are going to have to become, aka audio RSS based podcasters, are going to have to figure out how they're going to succeed and grow. And I think it's going to be required them to team up and have experiences that are, attract audiences to a specific niche, like, ESPN and what's that other one? New York, the big sports network,
Ringer, Barstool,
sports du jour. And I'm not a sports guy, obviously ESPN, but you're going to have some concentration of shows and a either PWA app experience or something where and it doesn't take a lot of people. So example, if you are in a niche segment of content, you are doing yourself a disfavor by not grouping up with other shows in that niche and working together to concentrate that audience.
Thus the explosion that we're seeing in podcast networks right now. Yeah. And why they've become such a powerful thing in the medium.
But most of those come with requirements. And it comes with commitments, comes with having to take advertising. There's a whole set of rules around that.
That's the purpose of the networks, is to offer those type of services and support.
So, but again, there's good networks and there's bad networks. So I think individual podcasters should consider, forming their own networks. And, what I'm looking at internally is basically some tools, and we already have some stuff built.
Well, you already have a network, Todd.
Yes, I do. But the problem is it's the online experience is not as rich as it needs to be. It's a basic network. It's got the shows.
I'm not talking about the tech podcast network. I'm talking about Blubrry.
That's really not a network. That's our customer base.
Well, it is in concept.
Yeah. In concept.
And for a while, you actually played that up with your own directory.
Yeah. And we still have our customer directory. And, there's stuff we're going to do there too. But again, you have to go tighter. And you have to offer, basically, if you've got, let's say you got 20 shows, you've got to get those 20 shows tied together. And then you've got to get them, if they want to do live, great. Let's do live within the ecosystem of the network. Sure, you can do live on YouTube and everywhere else you can want to do live, but also have this place where we can bring that audience back to and coalesce the content. I think it's going to be super critical going forward. Again, and we've got network tools already, but I've been doing some experiments already on some sites that are underneath lock and key that I'm just missing elements. I don't have everything that I need to make it because you got to get, if you're going to get listeners there has to be something yummy to chew on.
Yeah.
It can't just be a list of shows and players, and there has to be more. And so anyway,
community, Todd, community.
Well, you have to have an entertainment portal is what you have to have. And there has to be stuff going on that keeps people engaged on the site.
Which takes us into a whole nother realm that was tapped into in that revenue chart, which is the direct to creator revenue.
But it's not only that, but it's also the people can be live on the site. People can be in a rotation on the site. There's chat. There's all the stuff that goes along with having interactivity, scheduling of when people's shows are coming out. All that. It's basically like CBS, ABC. If you go to their sites and you can see what's coming up, you need that from a niche standpoint because if the apps aren't going to do it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you said that, Todd, because I've been thinking about that too. Are we heading back to some of the same models that we
started?
That media was kind of scaled.
Look what we did, Rob, in the beginning. We built Tech Podcasts with 13 shows, coalesced content, coalesced advertising. I think we
live stream too.
Live stream, all that stuff we did in 2005, 2006. It's going back, and again, what old is new again.
Right. There's a lot of that going on right now, in my view.
And what will this do? Concentrate those niche audiences, and it doesn't take a lot. It takes 5, 8, 9, 10,000 active listeners contributing to that content, highly engaged, highly focused. It's going to be harder to do if you're doing a business show. If you're just doing a general business show, it's going to be harder because there's 10,000 of those.
Yeah.
So the niche folks are going to have a lot easier. Or going back to stuff that you've wanted to do for years is local.
Mm-hmm.
That's, Fred, Adam's site, Fred, what it's called? Fred, is it Fred.fm?
Yeah, I had lunch with Stephen Goldstein just yesterday, and that's something he said too, is that he thinks that there's still a huge opportunity for local podcast content.
So what is oh my God, what is this site? It's called It's called Hello Fred.
Hello Fred.
Yeah, let's see here.
In Fred, Michigan?
No, Fredericksburg, Texas.
Okay.
Let me see if I can find the website. Oh my God, someone's got to help me out in chat here. Someone knows. It must be tough to have an entertaining program, but still have it be fact-filled or more informative than entertaining. Okay. Someone deleted a message. Where is this website? Is it hellofred.fm? Let me look.
So what is this Hello Fred thing again?
I've got to find it. Okay, here is Hello Fred. And it's got a live stream. And it's got a series of podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a PWA. And it plays a live stream, has breaks for news. And again, it's, what you would think in a community. It has Capital Report. It has some religion. It's got some news on what's going on in the community. So basically, this is just a site for Fredericksburg. and they play 24/7 live stream. And then when they have podcasts that are playing in the schedule. But again, this is just an example of the things that they've got going on. They've got the playlist of what's coming up.
Your screen is blank.
Yeah. Well, that's nice. At horse here, but I think there's this opportunity to, and again, go listen to podcast movement. Oh my God, podcasting 2.0, episode 2015, 16, and 17.
Yeah, there's another example of this. It's called CityCast. I think we've mentioned it before on the show, and they've been trying to do this in kind of medium-sized markets around the country to try and build a content news type thing. It's really built around kind of an NPR model, and I hear it's having a tough time.
Yeah, because
I'm not sure that NPR model works anymore. I think that caters to an older demographic.
I think you have to have someone that's passionate about a community. You have to have someone that is, I guess, for a better word,
connected to the community
and willing to, if you have 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 listeners in a local community, you can sell local advertising.
Well, it's the same model that the local radio stations.
Because radio is figured out that the digital stuff is going away. So, why my clock is all weird. The stream says it's been going for 2 hours and 16 minutes, which we know is not true.
So, Todd, did you just say that the radio folks have figured out that radio is going away?
Oh yeah,
yeah,
and they got to make the transition to digital.
Yeah.
And, there's a whole business opportunity there too.
Yeah.
But they're not stupid. They know what they're doing.
Well, the question is, probably not all of them are going to survive.
Oh, that's for sure.
There's just not enough room in the market for all of them to do what they do.
Mm-hmm.
That's the unfortunate message.
I have no idea what has happened today.
Well, maybe we should call it a day.
Call it a day. Then I can reboot the entire ecosystem here. And, there's just very, very odd. Because what it is the Starlink is connected to a Wi-Fi router. And so the Wi-Fi should never go down. Just because even if Starlink goes down, the network should stay up. But that is not what's been happening here. The network's been... And the reason I can tell that is because the cameras are on the network. And when the network freezes, then everything goes sideways. So, But we have a master recording. So I'll probably replace the live recording with the master recording. Of course... It'll show our glitches anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Next week, I'll be in London, so no show unless you want to do one on your own.
Okay.
And then back the following week. And should be interesting to have that conversation of how that show went. See if it's industry, if it's got lots of podcasters. I'm hoping to come back and have good news. That lots of podcasters.
What's the dates of the podcast show again?
It's 21-22.
21-22. Okay.
Yep. And I fly out Monday night, get in mid-morning on the 20th if I get through Newark, and then come back the 24th. So I get a couple of days to explore London. I have my list. I'm going to go see Churchill's property, and I'm going to go to try to do 2 museums. We will see the Churchill things, an all-day affair. And a little tricky to get there when you don't have a car. Just getting the right train out there, that's the key.
Buses and trains are how I got around.
Yeah.
All you need is your iPhone, Todd.
And your American Express card.
Well, I suppose that's
to tap
true.
the tube, $12 all day long.
Well,
or
you
12
can just
pounds.
use actually, you can actually just use your phone.
Oh, that'll work too. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how I did it.
All right.
I just scanned my phone. I was able to go everywhere.
Well, sorry for the technical glitches today. Thought we'd be back and be good, but yeah, I guess I should have I should have just shut everything off and let it restarted, but we'll do that next. But thanks. Todd at blubrry.com, at Geek News, at geeknews.chat, on Mastodon, at Geek News on X. Rob?
At Rob Greenlee on X, as well as LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Actually, I changed my handle on TikTok. Now I'm at Rob Greenlee.
How did you change that?
It gave me the option to change it from what I had. So
Wow.
I made that change last night because my name was like Rob Greenlee Podcaster, what it used to be. So I just changed it to just Rob Greenlee. So I was able to do that over there. And plus, I have a website, robgreenlee.com. Also, you can find me over there. And if you want to send an email, you send it rob.greenlee or robgreenlee@gmail.com.
Both of them go to the same email inbox or as separates?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. All right, everybody. Thanks for being here. And Glitch City. I guess it's following me home.
Yeah. Good luck.
All right, everybody. Take care.
Okay,
Thanks for being here.
Bye.